And Dr. Smith, just following up on that, I think the question and the answers reflect the idea that some tests may not be effective in evaluating potential applicants, and also may show bias without showing any relationship to the ability to do the job. Who would actually validate how do you validate the test, and how do you avoid inadvertent bias?
Thank you for the question, Representative Scott. As long as the test is job relevant, that equals valid. And so you need to go through the process to show job relevance. And
well, you can show job relevance with a discriminatory impact.
Well, right. And so, first of all, the tests need to be standard and used in a standard way. So everybody is treated the same. The test is scored the same way. Some of the times, even when you go through that, the test does show differential outcomes for different groups. That doesn't necessarily mean that the test is biased. As long as the test is job relevant and everybody's treated the same way, then the disparate impact that may occur.
Okay, there have been tests in the past that have shown job relevance valid, but better workers do better on the test, poor workers do worse, with a notorious racial bias. Dr. DuBois, can you speak about how you deal with the racial bias in some of these standardized tests?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Scott. When we approach hiring with pedigree-based screening mechanisms, we automatically screen out a huge portion of workers in the United States. So almost 80% of Hispanic workers are screened out, 75% of Black workers are screened out. We also screen out veterans, we screen out rural workers in disproportionate volumes. When we approach the skills-based hiring method, there are a lot of different mechanisms that employers have available to them to actually think about how to assess the skill of a candidate. The first recommendation we make is actually to consider the skills that the worker is gaining on the job in their past job, because that's actually how most of us make transitions in the US labor force. We make transitions to jobs that require very similar skill. And so the deployment of methods then to actually evaluate the skill of the candidate will vary a lot across different occupations in the US labor market. Picking the right skills assessment to actually ensure that you are not being biased is a really critically important point.
But you'll acknowledge that some tests may be good in terms of general validation, but have a significant racial bias.
Yes, that's correct. There's a lot of variation in the types of assessments that employers use, and some of them are not neutral. That's correct.
Thank you. Dr. Kimbrough, well, on LinkedIn, a lot of people look at the resume. Can you say a word about how a resume would look much better if it had a registered apprenticeship? Registered apprenticeships have national recognition, high standards, and how would that help somebody's resume?
Thank you, Ranking Member Scott. When people are able to, on LinkedIn, members essentially upload their resume, and we call it their profile, data they choose to share publicly. They can put not only prior experience, what they've done, where they've worked, which would include apprenticeships, but also skills that they've gained in the process of doing any particular job. So the benefit, to answer your question, of having an apprenticeship would allow a member on LinkedIn or any worker or job seeker to have more exposure to skills, to have more opportunity to showcase and demonstrate those skills on their profile, and therefore be perhaps a stronger match for a wider range of roles.
Let me get in another question. You also have skills certificates that you can get at a community college. How would a short-term Pell help you get those certificates on your resume?
Thank you for that question. I should say we're supportive of short-term Pell programs in general, and you asked the question, how would they help someone get secure a role? To the extent that any member can enhance their education and skills by attending a community college, that is clearly another one of those powerful channels for accessing opportunity, for enhancing someone's human potential. And so we would be very supportive of that. The more skills that a member has, as I said before, the more opportunities they have to be recognized by recruiters and hirers and actually secure a job faster. And I will say that we find that people who are sub-baccalaureate actually benefit disproportionately more by adding skills to their profile.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
They've given us